I call the June 1st, 2021 regular meeting of council to order. Councilperson Dowling will give the invocation this evening.
Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this day. Help us to use good judgment for the business at hand and guide us in wisdom with a continuing sense of truth and fairness for the community we represent.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Here.
Mr. Kirchner?
Here.
Mr. Krieger?
Here.
Mr. Landig?
Here.
Mr. Marne?
Here.
Mr. Blake?
Here.
Mr. Donovan?
Excused. Good evening, council, as well as Municipal Planning Commission and Board of Building and Zoning Appeals are again welcoming the public to their meetings. That is refreshing news, and we're all looking forward to the public attending. The June 15th, July 6th, and August 17th regular meetings of council will begin at 5:30 p.m. in order to not conflict with other city events. September 7th, regular meeting will return to the normal 7 p.m. start time. Approval of minutes. Council, you received the minutes of the May 4th, 2021 work session.
Move to approve. Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
The minutes of the May 4th, 2021 work session have been approved. Council, you have also received the minutes of the May 4th, 2021 regular meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
The minutes of the May 4th, 2021 regular meeting have been approved. Public hearings, we have none. Tabled legislation, we have none. New legislation, ordinance number 21-0-031.
An ordinance to authorize transfers of funds and revisions to appropriations and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flipiak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Malinowski, please.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. Members of council, this ordinance includes several permanent cash transfers out of various funds of the city, the largest being a approximately $3.4 million cash transfer out of the city's general fund to both fund the medical self-insurance fund for one half of the estimated claims for a year at $3,150,000, and also to fund the payroll stabilization fund for the 27th pay that occurs about once every decade. That equals about $140,000 annually. The additional $60,000 plus is for severance payments that are committed. The other cash transfers are out of the TIF fund to fund $100,000 of city funds to our street lighting fund, and also to fund the Sterling Court internal treasury bond. And then finally, there is a $91,325 cash transfer out of the court special projects fund that represents the annual debt payment that the municipal court funds on the renovation that occurred about 10 years ago. And then lastly, there's an appropriation revision in the amount of $9,790, and that's to appropriate funds for a replacement to a garage door at the service department. That is using CDBG grant funding. I would recommend approval of the entire ordinance. Thank you.
Council, what is your pleasure?
Move to suspend. Second.
Please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes. Move to approve. Second.
Please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Ordinance number 21-0-031 has been approved. Ordinance number 21-0-032.
An ordinance to revise the codified ordinances of the City of Mentor, May 2021, as amended by adopting current replacement pages and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Zeman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, members of council. As you're aware, periodically, our code publisher updates our traffic and general offenses, and also you've seen floodplain regulations previously. Those replacement pages are included in your packet as well. Speaking relative to the traffic and general offenses, the purpose of these updates would be to harmonize those sections with amendments to state code. Most of it's, penalties and some definitions. The only things that I'd probably call out as being new and novel are the new regulations for low-speed micromobility devices. Those are those sort of e-scooters you're seeing clogging up the streets in large urban centers like Cleveland. I think primarily we see them in Mentor being used by kids of all ages, so to speak. So there's regulations relative to how those are be treated as non-vehicles and yet still subject to some measure of control. One thing to note there is if they do become some type of a problem in the future, communities are free to prohibit their use on streets. So that's something to keep in mind. The only other thing is some changes to personal delivery devices, which I think are delivery robots. It increases the potential weight of those. So I assume that there's something in the works out there relative to delivery robots, and there are regulations in place dealing with their eventual arrival. So aside from those, if there's any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them, Mr. President.
Counsel,
Move to suspend. Second.
please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Move to approve. Second.
Please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Ordinance number 21-0-032 has been approved. Ordinance number 21-0-033.
An ordinance amending the Ridgewood Green subdivision development plan specifically to increase the total number of sublots from 108 to 114 residential sublots and the addition of enhanced common amenities.
Mr. Flibiak.
President, Ms. Mitchell, please.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. Members of council, the proposed amendment that is before you tonight is addressing the issue of a proposed increase in number of lots. When the rezone originally came to you in 2016, there were 108 lots within the development within the city of Mentor proper. And since that time, the plan has been back for review on 4 separate occasions, including the platting of phases 1 and 2. Over the course of those 5 years, the number of lots inadvertently was increased to 112. And so when Phase 3 was previously submitted in March for review, we finally caught the discrepancy in the number of lots, and so asked that this come back for a proper amendment, and before the Phase 3 could move forward. So obviously, Phase 1 and 2 have been recorded, and you have a number of different exhibits in front of you that kind of go through the history, so I don't want to rehash that unless you have questions. But the most current plan that shows the increase to a proposed 114 lots was considered at the May 6th Planning Commission meeting. And the commission recommended that the developer provide some additional recreational amenities within the subdivision in consideration of the 6 additional lots proposed. And specifically, they recommended that 2 additional pavilions be provided and that the central pathway between Olivia and Cody Court and Badeos Drive, where the Phase 2 ponds are, that specific pathway be permanently improved with asphalt. And so at the Planning Commission meeting on May 6th, the commission made a recommendation at a 6-0 vote to approve the increase in number of lots with 2 conditions, one being the walkway being paved, and then that 2 covered pavilions be incorporated into the plan. We also asked that the developer provide us with an updated plan, which is before you. And when they were indicating and identifying the pavilions on the plan, they noted specifically with regard to the pavilion that is to be proposed or was to be proposed at the end of Badeos Drive. There's the grading poses a lot of difficulties at that location. So they have proposed an alternate location, which is adjacent to sublot 121, and on your plan that is just north of Cody Court at Padeos Drive. That's an alternative location they'd like for you to consider. So if you would be in agreement with that change, condition number 2 of the Planning Commission's conditions would need to be modified. I did receive a call at the end of the day today from Mr. Tim Posar, who represents the developer on this project. He's here this evening, and he did indicate that he's been getting some feedback from his residents with regard to some of these proposed recreational amenities, and they are not being received so favorably. And if council would allow him to maybe elaborate on that, he could maybe talk to you about some of those concerns.
I think that would be appropriate. Mr. Posar, would you come to the podium?
Good evening.
Mr. Posar, could you state your name, address, and affiliation with the project?
Yeah, Timothy Posar. I'm the treasurer agent for Padeos LLC, 6011 Heisley Road, Mentor, Ohio. We received some feedback from the residents that weren't in favor of doing pavilions out there. They feel it's a nuisance amenity, and they're worried about future down the road, the maintenance of it when the association takes over. There was an email that was sent to City Council from one of the most vocal residents there, stressing her concerns about the pavilions. These pavilions were, as the newspaper said, a horse trade for the final approval of the lots. It was intended to be smaller. They're not huge pavilions, the minimum of 3 picnic tables underneath them. But a lot of the residents are concerned, you know, they're going to draw people in that don't necessarily live there to utilize them, and maintenance in future years.
About how many residents are already part of the association?
There is approximately 58 residents already.
Can you estimate how many you are aware and you heard of that were negative towards the pavilions?
The one vocal one that sent the email, and then through the builders, they have told us that, a lot of people didn't envision all of, pavilions. They like the walking paths. Everybody loves the walking paths. So I don't know a number.
Mr. Kirschner.
Mr. President, as you know, in the past, I've voiced a concern about amenities, and I certainly can appreciate the Planning Commission trying to add amenities. But again, the point I made before was that these amenities are put in before the homeowners associations formed, where they don't have any voice in it. The developer isn't going to pay for it. He's going to build it, but he's going to pass that cost along to the homeowners. So my position is leave the property as it is, keep it common property, and let the homeowners decide once they have their own homeowners association what they want to do with the property. They may want to leave it as is, they may want pavilions, but I would leave it up to them because ultimately they're the ones that are going to pay for it. That's my 2 cents.
Mr. President,
Mr. Krieger.
I go along with what Mr. Kirchner said as far as leaving it up to the residents. It starts off that we're supposed to provide a certain percentage of common area for their pleasure. Let that pleasure be decided by the people that are actually going to live there. I don't have a problem with the sidewalks or the increase in the number of lots, but I would recommend to amend Exhibit B, all references to the pavilions be taken out.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Second?
Oh, yes. Thank you. We do need to suspend prior to that. Mr. Posar, did you have any other comment?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Does administration have any other comments?
We have no objection to the change.
Then I would entertain a motion to suspend.
Do we want to suspend or we want to amend first and then suspend as amended?
I recommend suspending as amended.
Okay. Move to suspend. Second.
Please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Approve?
It hasn't been amended yet.
Okay, so
Yeah.
move to
Mr.
amend.
Krieger, could you restate your motion to amend?
My motion is to move to amend Exhibit B, all references to pavilions.
I'll second.
All references to pavilions to be removed.
Condition number 2.
You got a second?
Please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Move to approve as amended?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Ordinance number 21-033 has been approved as amended. Resolution number 21-R-104.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to prepare and submit a NatureWorks grant application to the State of Ohio Department of Natural Resources for outdoor exercise equipment at Civic Center Park and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President, and we're excited to be able to submit an application through the 27th round of the NatureWorks program. City's had good luck with this program in the past. This would be a 75-25% split. The city would pick up the 25% cost. What we're proposing is some low-impact outdoor exercise equipment. Right now, we're looking at about 9 pieces that would form a circuit that would be predominantly focused on seniors utilizing this area. It would be located here on this campus between the pool and the pickleball courts. And I think it's important to point out that we've actually had one very generous resident who has offered to pick up $10,000 of what would be about $12,000 of the city's local match. So, you know, we love to see that. So we're ask for council's concurrence to be able to make the application.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Resolution number 21-R-104 has been
There you go.
adopted. Resolution number 21-R-105.
A resolution declaring it necessary to improve the streets hereinafter mentioned within the termini designated by supplying such streets with electric lighting and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Malinowski, please.
Thank you, Mr. Flippia. Members of the council, this is the first step in the process of our street lighting assessments. It's a resolution declaring it necessary to improve the properties. The assessment rate was calculated at a lower rate, 5 cents per $1,000 of assessed valuation, lower than what it has been the previous 3 years or so. So we have it calculated at $1.15 per $1,000 of assessed valuation. It's for 2022's collection year. We are currently awaiting the results of the triennial update from the Lake County Auditor's Office, and that's going very, very slow. But we will come back to council with the assessment ordinances if this is passed. I would recommend approval. Thank you.
Mr. President, just a quick question.
Mr. Kirchner.
So this process that we've discussed over the years about the mailings and all that, Julie might be the best one to ask this, I guess, but has this improved now that this legislation that State Representative Rogers was able to get through towards the end of his tenure, is this going to help that process?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So thanks are in order then for
Absolutely.
former State Rep John Rogers, because he was, I thought he was already out of office, but at the 11th
Wasn't
hour,
in
he
office
was,
when it passed.
yeah, he got that legislation passed, and we've been, you know, I know Julie's been emailing him off and on for the last couple of years, and they finally got it got it on the floor, so that's good. So,
The light came on and he
yeah,
did his thing. Great. Council, what is your pleasure?
move to suspend.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
No.
Mr. Blake?
Yes. Resolution number 21-R-105 has been adopted. Second reading, there are none. Third reading, there are none. Manager's report. Ken?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council. The Lake County Household Hazardous Waste Collection next collection is on Saturday, June 5th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Lake County Fairgrounds. For a list of acceptable waste products, check their website or call the Solid Waste District at 440-350-2908. And we remind people that that is for Lake County residents only. The city would like to congratulate Mentor firefighter Jerry Craddock, who was referenced earlier, on his retirement from the city effective June 4th. We extend our appreciation for more than 36 years of service, and he has become one of the faces of our community and widely seen on a number of broadcasts on TV, radio, YouTube, for our public education office as part of the fire department. He did a great job with that, and he'll do a great job with the EMT Academy should that move forward as we expect. Mentor Rocks kicks off this evening at 7 p.m. with the Foreigner Tribute Band Double Vision. The concert series will again be every Tuesday from 7 to 9 p.m. from now until the end of August. Civic Center in Morton Pools will open Sunday, June 7th. Music at the Manor program begins tomorrow at the Wildwood Cultural Center from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Our first guest there will be the Shootouts, which is an acoustic trio, and we ask residents to look at the city's website for upcoming events there as part of that series. Summer camps also start on next Monday. Council, we had talked about hoping to open the senior centers, our senior center, by June 2nd. Looks like it's going to probably be pushed back to June 14th. The primary problem there is that we just haven't been able to fill the employment slots and get people trained. That's probably okay because most of the programming still has to get up and running, and people need to sign up for that. So there wouldn't have been a whole lot going on outside of lunches, which have never really stopped out there. So we're hoping, so that will definitely be our open date. Free unveiled art exhibit opening reception will be held on Friday, June 4th, this Friday, from 7 to 8:30 p.m. in the Mentor Municipal Center lobby. That will feature the artwork of Jackie Sajewski, I think, if my Polish pronunciation is correct. Public viewing will be open daily through June 24th. And finally, Council, we have one new business to inform you about. The Style Center, which is a clothing boutique located at 8492 Mentor Avenue, and they are having their grand opening this coming Wednesday. So we wish them great success and thank them for their confidence in our community. That's all.
I hear concerts, music of Wildwood, senior center opening, art exhibits. That's a refreshing, encouraging report. Sounds a lot like normal. Thank
A
you,
whole lot
Ken.
different than this time last year.
Yes, sir. Clerk's correspondence. Julie?
Council is in receipt of a liquor permit request for a transfer of JDK Lube LLC DBA Quaker Steak and Lube to TA Operating LLC DBA Quaker Steak and Lube, both at 7834 Reynolds Road. Council is also in receipt of a new liquor permit request for Riser Foods Company DBA Mentor Get Go, number 3638 at 7750 Reynolds Road. That is all.
Commission committee reports. Meeting minutes, Board of Building and Zoning Appeals, April 13, 2021. Tree Commission, April 14, 2021. Municipal Planning Commission, April 15, 2021. Municipal Planning Commission, May 6, 2021. Old business. Hearing none. New business.
Mr. President,
Mr. Kirschner.
I'd like to make a few comments about the recent retirement of Bill Snow from our Planning Commission. Bill Snow and I have been friends for over 30 years. We served together for 12 years on the Planning Commission as well as a few years on City Council. And Bill has selflessly dedicated his time and energy for the betterment of the city all those years. But leaving the city to spend more time with his family is certainly a priority. but his expertise, his work ethic, and especially his wit will be missed by all of us who served with him or interacted with him through the administration. But going forward, I look forward to Bill and I doing our lunches together and sharing stories from days past on our Planning Commission days. But good luck, Bill.
You're here.
And to that part where I make a motion to purchase of real estate to go into executive
Excuse me,
session.
Mr. Kirschner.
Oh, I'm
just-
sorry, you got more?
Just wanted, now that we're back with the public, we have to say persons before council, and there are none. Please continue.
Okay, my motion is to go into executive session for purchase of real property where public disclosure of information would provide an unfair competitive advantage.
Julie, please call the roll.
I need a second.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
6:35.
June 19th.
Plenty of time.
Mr. President, I would move that we go back into regular session.
Second?
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
This meeting is adjourned.